Coming up, more models to share with you, a lighting effects board from HobbyLink International, and this month's modeling tip on this episode of Hot Off the Bench. Well, hey everyone, and welcome to another Hot Off the Bench. Got some really cool stuff to share with you this month, but first, let's begin with our slideshow. And now to kick off our slideshow is a spectacular diorama by modeler Mike Walston. It is based on my favorite episode from Star Trek Enterprise called In a Mirror Darkly, which carries on the storyline of the USS Defiant that disappeared in Tholian space in the original series. The ship at one point is held in a cavernous dry dock which is located inside of an asteroid, and this is a depiction of that scene. Mike used the 1000 Polar Lights model for the ship and built everything else around it that you see. Now, when I first saw this scene in the Enterprise episode, it reminded me of a concept piece that Ralph McQuarrie designed for a Trek movie project many years ago, and I thought it was so cool that they were using that concept. This is an absolutely beautiful piece, and I just love how he recreated all of the details here. Thanks, Mike, for sharing. And here we have a scratch-built model by modeler Jeff Palasoto. This is a ship he designed himself and took about 7 months to complete. He first worked out the design on paper, then used styrene along with other parts to build it. The display is also scratch-built and made from medium-density fiberboard along with poplar, with the electronics mounted within. The power for the shuttle actually runs up along the cables that we see here. Jeff told me he wanted to do something Star Trek but didn't want to just design another starship. I think he did an amazing job here. Really cool, Jeff. Thanks for sharing. And as we stay in the Trek universe, we have the 1/350 scale Katinga by modeler Brian Wilkerson. I sure wish I had room for these large versions. This model kit has gotten stellar reviews for being exquisitely detailed, replicating the look of the studio miniature, and it measures 24 inches in length. Brian did an outstanding job with painting it and installed lighting as well. Just great, thanks Brian. And moving on to the Irwin Allen universe, this is the B9 from Lost in Space by modeler Bill Hughes. This is the 1/6 scale kit from Mobius Models, and Bill added in lighting kits from Tenna Controls, as well as a computer speech unit from Mech Labs to replicate the lighting and voice effects from the show. As you can see, he also constructed this beautiful background display simulating a doorway from the Jupiter 2. Now, Bill is quite the fan of the B9, having also built life-size versions of the famous robot. He told me that it's been a long-time challenge to get the colors right. He mentioned that he was able to get a hold of an original wrist clamp, and after doing so, uses the dark grays that you see here versus black or gunmetal for the arms and legs. He also uses Krylon steel to mist those areas and also applies it onto the radar collar. And if you'd like to see more of his work, just check out his YouTube channel called WonderVista. I provided the link below, and no doubt you can contact him there for more details about this build. Thanks for sharing this outstanding model, Bill. Next up is a rare model. It's a 1/48 scale replica of the Ornithopter from Dune, and this is by modeler Tim Utton. Tim mentioned that the old Revell kit was challenging to work with because the plastic was unfortunately quite brittle. Some parts completely broke and had to be rebuilt. Tim made modifications to various parts of the ship, such as the rear legs, to which he added detailing. He also scratch-built and lit the cockpit interior and added 2 figures to the display. The model was painted with Model Master acrylics and weathered with Tamiya pastels. It's an interesting design, and Tim did such a great job with it here. The model won first place in its category at the 2019 IPMS Ottawa Capcom show and was also awarded Best Science Fiction and People's Choice. Congrats, Tim, on a nice build, and thanks for sharing. Next, we have a diorama by modeler Chris Hunter, which features model kits of the TWA Mars Liner rocket, and the kits used here are by Glencoe. The Glencoe kit allows you to construct a replica of the one that was displayed at Disneyland for many years as a symbol for future space travel. Now, the concept for this diorama was actually inspired by something similar that I did several years ago. Chris really liked it and wanted to make one for himself, and I have to say he did a fantastic job on it. What inspired me to come up with it was concept art from the 1950s and 60s era. I'm sure you've seen various concept paintings like this of what artists back then had envisioned life in space would be. This diorama includes 2 rockets standing over a base made of dome structures. One of the rockets has sustained damage, and we see the base personnel assessing the situation. Chris also detailed the diorama with lights. Really nice job, Chris. Thanks for allowing me to share it here. Now we have a couple of models from modeler Barry Munden. First is a beautiful rendering of one of my favorites, the Nautilus from the Disney feature film. This was a garage kit that Barry picked up at WonderFest, and the model measures 32 inches in length. Along with some modifications he made to the kit in some areas, he also added the HO Sailor figures you see here. Barry noted that he didn't want his Nautilus to appear as heavily weathered as the studio model, instead opting for a hull with less weathered iron and brass accents. He also built this beautiful display base to go along with it, and to complete the display, he attached a squid that you see here. It's a toy that he had found, and he modified it with a glass eye for a more realistic appearance. Next is his 1/350 scale Enterprise, which I thought turned out quite nice. Although he installed the motors that rotate the fan blades, he elected not to connect them because of the noise they make. He did leave himself the option to reconnect them down the line, but so far he's been happy with his choice. Barry used Aztec Dummies paint masks for most of the ship's markings versus decals, and as you can see, it's a very nice replica of the iconic ship. Really nice work, Barry. Thanks for sharing. More of Barry's work can be found on his website, AmazingSci-Fi.com. You'll see more models, including this 24-foot replica of the Death Star trench. Just check out the link below. And here we have another unique-looking ship, the Marauder from the 1980s TV show Buck Rogers by modeler Eagle Farrell. In usual fashion, Eagle has done an outstanding job with this old monogram kit. The model was beautifully painted and detailed to replicate the look of the model seen on the show. And check this out, he not only lit up the cockpit and engines, but wired in some flashing lights for the lasers. Really outstanding. And sticking with the Glenn Larson universe, here are some beautiful models from Battlestar Galactica by modeler Nigel McLaughlin. First is this really cool variant of the Viper, which Nigel describes as a mashup between an F-16C along with two Mobius Viper kits. What he comes up with here is a variation of the Viper that definitely looks like it could ruin a Cylon's day. He calls it a Diamondback Stealth Viper, and the F-16 parts he added meld quite nicely with the original Viper. And don't you just love the paint scheme? Nigel also lit up the cockpit and engines, as you can see. Next is a build that Nigel added onto. It started out as a dying Cylon, which was done by modeler Dave Eves. The Cylons are the Mobius 1/6 scale models, and I mentioned to Nigel how much I love the poses, which is sometimes a challenge to make look natural. Nigel points out that Dave had to do a bit of work to alter the pose that the model is configured to, and when adding the second figure, Nigel positioned the head in a different direction that would go with the first figure. Beautifully done, guys. Next up is Omar Baez. He's quite the expert in 3D printing and painting figures. He's produced some amazing figures, and here are two examples. First, Captain America as seen in the comic books. Quite a beautiful sculpt, great pose, along with an exquisite paint job to match. The other is a sculpt Omar describes as a dark side Grogu, and he nicknamed him Darth Gravis. The sculpt was designed by Ian Robinson. The link to his ArtStation page is below. The sculpt originally came with a rock formation base, but Omar wanted to tie it into the Mandalorian, so he added the Mando helmet to it. Both were printed on his Anycubic Photon S and painted with Createx illustration and fluorescent paints. Beautiful job, Omar. Here we have another beautiful diorama by modeler Ken Spriggs. This is from the 1982 update of the film, The Thing. The scene is meticulously done, and all of the details he's put into it transport us back to this great movie. Here, the hero of the film, played by Kurt Russell, is seen using a flamethrower against an alien creature. In the background, you see the grotesque human corpse from which it sprang. Ken worked quite a while on this piece, and his efforts paid off. If you want to see more details about the build, check out the link to the video on his channel, which follows its construction. Another great job, Ken. Alright, we're going to end our slideshow here in the Star Wars universe, first with this 1/350 Bandai Millennium Falcon. The ship was completed by modeler John Bollier, who is currently serving in the Canadian Navy aboard the HMCS Calgary. For this build, John used two white LEDs, one for the cockpit and the other to feed into a 0.25 fiber optic line for the hull spotlights. The red markers are done in a similar fashion with a white LED that's been tinted. For the engines, John first replaced the kit part with a zip tie to simulate the grills and also to help with light diffusion. For the light source, he used a 26mm Cobb LED with a piece of blue plastic binder to create the blue glow. Now, I'm not familiar with Cobb LEDs, but after researching them, I found out that Cobb stands for chip on board and have a single LED versus SMDs, which are made of an array of LEDs. In this case, John decided to use the COB for two main reasons. First, the LEDs that he was trying were leaving hotspots. He explains that since the COB creates one long light source, no hotspot. The second reason, he says, I just had one and wanted to try one out. To open the cockpit, he used a 0.3 bit to drill the perimeter of the windows and clean them up with a sharp X-Acto. The ship was painted with Tamiya Insignia white. He used this kit's stickers and then Mr. Weathering color for detailing. To create the base, he used a 3D printed part with styrene sheets for the sides. Just an outstanding build with incredible detailing for its size. I was amazed when I saw it on Facebook. I messaged John and he was kind enough to provide the info and pictures. He told me that he always makes a point to bring some kits with him whenever he goes on deployment. He works on them during his off hours and he likes the Bandai kits because they don't take up much room. Thanks for sharing, John. We appreciate all you do and stay safe. And we have this diorama from builder Christian Lehman. He calls this Leaving Mos Eisley. The ship is called the Outrider and is a 1/144 resin kit available from a company called JP Productions. The link is below. He used the Tyridium Models light set with additional LEDs for the cockpit. All of the Star Wars figures and droids were 3D printed as well as some of the other pieces. The docking bay was completely scratch built. You can find out more about this build at the ScaleMates link below. Really cool build, Christian. Thank you for allowing me to share this. Okay, and to end our show is another fabulous Star Wars hangar bay diorama by Lee Chambers. If you recall, I featured his other hangar in episode 2 of Hot Off the Bench, and as was done with the first, this one is constructed inside an old freezer container. He completely kit-bashed all of the interior, and as you can see, he added a tremendous amount of detailing here. The Bandai 1/144 scale Millennium Falcon is featured here along with 3D printed stormtroopers. Now, Lee tells me he has hidden a famous Star Wars character in the diorama, and I have yet to find him, but I'll keep looking. Another beautiful piece, Lee. Just outstanding. Thank you for sharing. So, more fantastic work there. Thanks, guys, for sharing. I really do appreciate it. Just amazing stuff. If you'd like to have your model featured here on the slideshow, just send it on down to ismslideshow@gmail.com. I've created that new address for this purpose. And just a couple of things here now. The slideshow's gotten to a point where I think what I'm going to do is limit it to about 12 modelers per slideshow, considering all of the pictures that I have to put together and the narration, which I'd like to continue to provide because a lot of you guys will share information about the builds, and I think it's important to share that information to the audience. So when you make your submission, if you can keep it to 1 to 2 models, I most likely will now do 1 model per modeler. If by chance I don't use both models in a slideshow, don't worry about it because I will then take that second submission and use it down the line in another slideshow. Just tell me which one you favor so that I could use that one first. And if you could include a description, which most of you guys do, just do that when you email your submission. And about 4 to 5 high-res pictures are really nice to have. And speaking of shows, one thing I'm really excited about is WonderFest because that is just around the corner. I can't believe it. It's come upon us so fast. I'm excited that they are carrying on with the show this year, and I'm definitely looking forward to attending. If you're not familiar with WonderFest, by the way, I did make a video about the show a couple years ago. I'll post the link below. It is a video that goes over what the show is all about and how it's structured, so check it out. I'll make a video this year about that, but it'll really will be about models that are there and a few other things. We'll see. I'm just going to play that by ear. I didn't enter anything the last time I went, but this year I think I'm going to go ahead and bring my Battlestar Galactica launch tube since that's nice and compact. It should be easy to package up, and then I think I'll also bring my Star Trek busts that I've recently completed. Dr. McCoy, this is a picture of him. And those should also be easy to package up as well. So definitely looking forward to it, so watch for that video as well. It's coming up next weekend. Okay, well, it's now time to talk about a product that will help you out with modeling, and I am very happy to share with you something new from HobbyLink International. So first, a word about HobbyLink International. The link is below. It's a website, it's a YouTube channel, he's got a Facebook page. It's all designed by a gentleman by the name of Kenny Conklin. He's a great guy. He continues to contribute to the modeling community. He's so willing to help you out, answer questions, and he puts on a model contest, an online model contest, and group builds, all kinds of stuff. So again, check it out at HobbyLink International. There's also a at the website, there's also a form that you can post your models and ask questions to other modelers if you want to venture off from Facebook. But what he's created now is something to help you out with lighting. Now, lighting has become obviously very popular. A lot of options have come on board here over the last, gosh, I guess it's been 10 years with LEDs and SMDs and all these things. And I remember when I first lit a model, I was just excited getting light out of the model. But now we want to create dynamic effects and something that's going to really step up to the next level. And this chip that they've designed now, it's basically a lighting effects circuit board, will allow you to do that. So let's go ahead and go over the board. Kenny has provided a board here to show you, and I've wired it up to show you what it can do. Alright, so I've got this just wired in temporarily here just to show you the effect, and you can see how small the board is compared to everything else. And so what I've got here are a green, yellow, and red 3mm LEDs. They've been pre-wired with resistors to handle 9 to 12 volts. And then we've got one white LED that's been wired in to the strobe effect. So these are going to be wired into the navigation effect, the white one to the strobe effect. And let me go ahead and flip the switch on so you can see the effect here. So first, here's a shot of the board. It measures 3/4 inch by 5/8 inch, or 18mm by 15mm. It comes labeled, as you can see, indicating which openings are for which connections and effects. The board provides an effect for navigation lights, which come on for 1.25 seconds and turn off for 1.5 seconds, and strobes, which flash for 0.75 milliseconds and turn off for 1 second. So this is the effect, and you can see it's quite nice. The navigation lights and strobe lights are going off as they should. And bear in mind, I just have a small amount of lights here that are connected just for demonstration purposes, but the board can handle up to 20 LEDs for each effect. And of course, as you increase the amount of LEDs, you're going to have to make sure that you're using the proper wiring and power source accordingly. So the chip can be purchased on its own for $15 or as a kit for $30. With that $30 kit, you'll also be getting an adapter. Now, I'm really excited about this. This is a really great affordable option for lighting your models, and thanks, Kenny, for sending on that demo chip. It really was a pleasure to show it here on the channel, and I already know what I'm going to do with mine. I have this Space Seed Enterprise kit here, which I've built in the past, but I'm actually going to use this in conjunction with this conversion kit that I got off federationmodels.com. They're a great website if you want to find some alternatives for Federation type models and all kinds of other things, so check them out. But only $20 for this conversion kit. And this, of course, is from the Franz Josef Star Trek manual, which I used to page through for many hours as a kid, and I've always been fascinated by this particular configuration. So definitely looking forward to adding this lighting effect kit onto this model. And lastly, I'll quickly mention here that I found this model on clearance at Michaels for $10. Now, if you have a Michaels, I can't guarantee they're going to be on sale there as well, but someone told me they were getting rid of their model section. I can't really confirm that, but either way, you might want to just take a walk through to see if they've got, they don't have a very big model section to begin with, but if they have this kit on sale as well, again, 10 bucks, can't beat it. So, looking forward to putting all that together in an upcoming video. Alright, well now it's time for our model tip, and Ken Spriggs has been kind enough to provide this month's tip, so let's go ahead and take a look and see what he's got.
Alright, so here's a technique that I use from time to time if I'm wanting to reproduce a part that has some odd dimensions, that I can't just measure it off. So here is a helmet, space helmet, with a visor that's built into it that I 3D printed. And here's the same version of that helmet that is open, so it can have a visor put into it. So if I want to make a piece of clear styrene to go into that, that's an odd shape. And I'd have a hard time trying to measure that, especially with the curve, and get it to be right. So what I do is I just take some masking tape. I just use some Tamiya here. And I just tape over the entire part, and it takes a couple of pieces. And kind of press it into the lines. All right, you just want to cover the entire thing. Okay, so now once that's done, and again, this is just rough, I'm just giving you a general idea. So I would try to press it in, and in this case, there's a nice groove, there's a nice little inset part, so I could press the tape around it and make sure that it is in there nice and snug. And then I just take a felt tip marker and I just draw around it. All right, there you go. So now I have the part that I want to be on there. So then I would just remove the tape, being sure to keep it all together since I have several pieces. Right over here. Okay, there you go. So there you go. So then what I would do is I would put it down onto a piece of styrene. This is actually just some paper, but pretend that's styrene. And then I would just go through and just cut the whole piece out. Or in this case, I would use clear styrene. So I've already done that, obviously. So here's that little piece. This was a test I did. And then when you get your shape that you want, so now I can adjust it and sand it and make it the way I want it to be. So in this case, it would go inside the helmet. Sorry. Okay. And it would be the shape that I want. All right. So that's a great little trick to use if you need to reproduce some parts that are some odd shapes and just but you have the figure there, you can just tape it off and do it that way. All right.
That's a great tip, Ken. Thank you very much for making that. I really do appreciate it. If you have any questions about it, feel free to leave a comment here on my YouTube channel, and Ken will get back to you on that. All right, guys. Well, that's a wrap for this month's Hot Off the Bench. Thanks again for watching. I do appreciate all the kind comments as usual. If you have any questions, feel free to leave a comment down below or email me at interstellarmother@gmail.com. Thanks again for watching, and next week is WonderFest, so watch for an upcoming video about that. Take care, and I'll see you in the next video.